Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back, everyone, as we are preparing for Shabbat Hanukkah, Shabbat Parashat Mikeitz. Let's start off this week's lesson with the first pasuk, Vayhi Mikeitz Shanatayim Yamim Ufaro Holem. And it happened at the end of 2 years, and Paro was dreaming. The Midrash Rabbah says, there's a pasuk in Eov. It says, Kitz Sam LaHoshech. Hashem put an end to darkness. It's interesting. The Midrash on this week's Parsha talks about the end of darkness, Hanukkah, putting the light. And what does the Midrash continue? Zman Natan LeYosef Kama Yeh Bebet Asurim. A time was put for Yosef how long he was supposed to be in jail. Kivan shehegia haketz ufaro holem. And once the end came, Paro had a dream. The Bet HaLevi learned a big lesson from this midrash. The Bet HaLevi says, what we call the upside down theory is that the midrash is teaching us, don't think Paro had a dream and that's why Yosef got out, but rather Hashem put a kitz, an end to Yosef's time in prison, and that's why Paro had the dream. Not that Paro had the dream and Yosef got out, but Yosef needed to get out, so Paro had the dream. You know.
But he's been having this for the whole year.
Oh, so we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that in a moment. Very good. That's from the Midrash Gadol. That's correct. So, to understand this part of the Beit HaLevi, some people say, this guy went to a good college, he got a good degree, and that's why he's making good money, right? People don't understand that on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem said this guy is going to make money, and that's why he went to college and got a good degree and got what he is, and that's why he's getting what he gets. Rav Dessler says in the Michtav Melio, it's as if you see a pen. You're looking through a peephole, through a keyhole, right? And you see a pen moving and writing something. You don't see what's making the pen move, but you understand that someone's making that pen move. It's the same thing. Cause and effect. What is the effect and what's the cause? This is what's called the upside down theory. The truth is, Hashem wants things to happen, and that's why things happen. It's not that I went to college and got a degree and that's why I'm making X, Y, and Z money. But rather, I'm supposed to be making this money, and that's why I ended up going to college for this degree and this job in this place. Rav Dessler writes, a person is not matzliach because he's a wise person. You have a lot of people. You have some doctors that make very good money. And you have some doctors, unfortunately, who don't make such good money. You have the same thing in jewelry. Right? You have some jewelers, jeweler to the stars, right? They have big money. And you have some jewelers, it's difficult for them. In every profession, it's like that. You can have a shoemaker even. I know of certain shoemakers, they're loaded. They have a lot of money. They're very matzliach, right? And you have some, not so well. Same thing with barbers, same thing with every profession. Whether it be a licensed profession, an unlicensed profession. It's all really what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decrees. Rav Sutton gives a mashal, a 12th grade girl. She's straight out of high school, and she gets engaged. And her father is very successful. He's a rich man. She's very pretty. She's popular. So everyone says, of course, that's why she got engaged right after high school. But that's wrong. Why she got engaged then? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu 18 years ago, before she was born, said that she's going to get engaged to this and this person and this time. And that's why it happens. Therefore, says the Bet HaLevi, don't focus on people in between. Everything is a gezerah min hashemayim. Therefore, what you have to do, you have to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Stop looking for other things around. Yes, you have to do Yishtaldut. You have to go to college if you need to. You have to take a profession if you need to. You need to do stuff to get money. Yeah. But at the end of the day, no. Where is the actual money coming from? not from your wisdom, and not from your might, but it's all coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's who you have to pray for. I said the story over many times, but I think it's very apropos for this lesson. There was two Russian generals, and they were traveling on the train, and they ended up on one platform. And as they come out on this platform, on this train platform, they see a whole musicianal band. They're playing music, and they have a sign on the top: "Welcome the general." So now each general has a mahloket. Who is it for? One says it's for me, the other one says it's for me. And they start arguing who it's for. They ask people around, nobody's answering, they can't stop the band. And they see right across from the train station was a house. So they said, you know what, this house probably they saw who they're setting up for, and they heard about it, and they know about it. So they went together to that house. They knock on the door, and there was living Beryl the Jew, right? Beryl. So they knock on the door and they tell him, you live here? He says, yeah. He says, you see them set up? Yeah. You know who they set up for? And he says, why you want to know? They say, because we have a disagreement. If you can tell us who they set up for, who they're playing the music for, you know what? Between the both of us, we'll give you 50 rubles. So Beryl said, listen, I'll tell you the truth. I saw everything. I saw them set up, and I know who they're playing for. I said, who? He said, they're playing for me. I said, what? How are they playing for you? It says general. He says, yeah, but I needed the 50 rubles. So you came here, you think it's for you, but I need the 50 rubles, so they're really playing for me. Same thing, same idea. We think this is coming from here, that's coming from here, but in the truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes everything go to the place that it needs to. So our emunah has to be on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now, Rabbi Yosef, you said, but the Midrash says, and this is Midrash Gadol. The Midrash Gadol says, Davar achar, another teaching. It says in Pasuk, Ufaro holem, and Paro was dreaming. It should have said that he dreamt. Melama that comes to teach us, Shakor otan shtei shanim, all these 2 years, Hayab Paro ro'eh et hacholam b'chol layla v'layla, that he was seeing this dream for 2 whole years straight. Until this day, he didn't remember it, and all those 2 years he didn't remember it. Until this day, he also had to come out. So now the question is, like you said, why do you have to see it for all those 2 years? If the whole reason that we're saying Paro had the dream was to free Yosef, and Yosef had a time, so why Paro is seeing it for full 2 years? So there's a famous story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was traveling with his students, and they were traveling in the summer, and they were going through a very dry forest. I don't know what type of very dry place. And they're going, and they run out of water. And one of his students, one of the Hasidim, tells to the Baal Shem Tov, what are we going to drink? There's no water here. And they're looking miles ahead, there's nothing there. So the Baal Shem Tov said, if you have bitachon, we're going to be able to drink. 1 day went by, 2 days went by, 3 days went by, and no water. No water. No one has what to drink. And all of a sudden, they see another man, a shepherd. And the shepherd comes over to the Baal Shem Tov and says to the Baal Shem Tov, can you help me? I lost my flock of sheep. I don't know where they went. The Baal Shem Tov closed his eyes and opens them and says, I know exactly where they are. Let me show you. And he starts to walk in that direction. They get to the place where all the sheep is, and there they see a nice stream of water, and the sheep are drinking from the stream. And Baruch Hashem, the Baal Shem Tov and his students got to have some water. So one of the students, Rav Pinchas Mikeitz, tells the Baal Shem Tov, he says, I don't understand. Obviously, the shepherd came because Hashem wanted us to find the water. But why did we have to wait 3 days for the shepherd to come? Why we had to be thirsty for 3 days? Why couldn't Hashem send a shepherd earlier? So the Baal Shem Tov answered, that shepherd has been wandering around in circles for the last 3 days, waiting for you to have bitachon. The shepherd lost his sheep 3 days ago. He said it. And he could have found us. He could have come yesterday. He could have come the day before. But you didn't have bitachon that Hashem will give us water until today. This now you understand the Midrash. The Midrash says that Paro was having the dream for 2 years straight because Hashem put a kitz to Yosef's time. If he would have realized his mistake for speaking to the butler and saying, remember me, twice, then he would have been able to get out earlier. Paro would have remembered his dream. But since he didn't, it took the full 2 years for Yosef to get out. And then he finally remembered it. Then Paro finally remembered his dream. That means every single night Paro had the same dream and Yosef had the passport to freedom. But since Yosef had Tzaddik, whatever this means, his bitachon was somewhat lacking. It's hard for me to say that about Yosef at Tzaddik. But this is what our Chachamim say. Until finally he gave up on the butler's promise to remember him. And then and only then did Hashem free him. So we come out with 2 lessons from this idea over here, this Midrash. Lesson number 1, it all comes from Hashem. And that was Yosef's mistake. Yosef was thinking of the butler. The butler. And that's why Yosef had to wait 2 whole years. If Yosef would have already given up on the butler, it would have came right away. So we know, cause come from Hashem. What you think is the cause is actually the effect of the cause. Because Hashem wants something to happen, that's why the other one has what happens. And that if a person has bitachon, he can bring the good things to him much faster, much earlier, if he trusts in Hashem. You know, you have a lot of times people that are davening for certain things, right? But at the same time that they're davening, they're actually planning how they themselves are going to make it happen, right? You have to do something. That's true. How much you have to do is dependent on everybody's different emunah and bitachon. But this is the lesson that comes out. Have bitachon. Believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Believe that everything comes from Him. There's no other source for anything in this world. He is the Siba HaSibot, like we say. The cause of all causes. This relates, just on a side note, this relates to Hanukkah. Right? You think about Hanukkah, the whole difference between the Yevonim, the Greeks, and the Jews. When the Greeks met the Jews, they were very impressed. They had a lot of wisdom. They had a lot of great things, and the Greeks had a lot of wisdom too. But the difference and why the Greeks started to not like the Jews was the Greeks didn't want to have control by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They wanted nature to be in charge, right? Watch nature and understand nature and take things from there. They didn't want to have Sibah, they didn't want to have a cause of all causes being HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what they didn't want to have. That's why they didn't want us to learn Torah. That's why we say we don't have any Hashem. We don't have any of these stuff. And we know it's not that way. All right, moving on to our bigger thoughts on this, but let's move on to another lesson in this week's Parsha. Before we actually go on to our lesson, I want to take a look one moment on Pasuk 41:39, Parak 41, Pasuk 39. It says over here that Paro called Yosef. After Hashem showed you all this, in Navon v'chacham kamocha. There is no one that can tell the difference and as wise as you are. Now, a lot of time we call someone a chacham. The Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Lutzato, in his Derech Chochmah, says there are 10 rules for a chacham, someone to be a chacham. Okay, so buckle your seatbelts because now you're going to learn what the Ramchal called a chacham. The number one thing that's on the Ramchal's list of being a chacham is that he has to know the the 24 books of Tanakh. All right, so already I can count many people who are off this list. Okay, you have to know all of Tanakh to be considered a chacham. That's number one. Then number two, he has to know the Yud Gimel Ikarim, the 13 principles of faith. 3, he learns Talmud to understand halakha. 4, he should ask and answer how to differentiate between what's a real question and what's a fake question. Number 5, he then should learn all of Shas. Right? There was Shas for halakha. Now it's all of Shas. Then he should learn the Rambam's Yad HaChazaka. 7, he should learn Shulchan Aruch. 8, he should learn all the Midrashim. 9, then he should study logic, rhetoric, poetry. He should know engineering, mathematics, astronomy, other subjects and crafts that he will need. Once he knows all these, he should put them away and only study Torah. But at number 9, you have to now be an engineer, a mathematician. You know, if you look at it, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rabbi Yisrael Belsky, they knew all these stuff. They were true chachamim. Number 10, and then he should focus all his interests on HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the rest of his life. He should apportion time to study all these things and devote himself abundantly to prayer. Okay, so this is the definition of a chacham according to the Ramchal in a Derech Chochmah. So anyone who aspires or is looking for a Talmid Chacham, I think these are some of the key giveaways, key things that you should be looking for and aspiring to. Everyone should aspire to be a Talmid Chacham, and these are some of the things that you should be aspiring to. Okay, this was just a side thing just to know. I mentioned it a few times in the past, and I found in the Lein L'Shabech, he brings it down. I said, let me share it with you. The next lesson, it says Yosef Tzaddik that Paro made him in charge of everything. I want to read to you the pasuk as it says, "VeYosef hu hashalit al haaretz, hu hamashbir lechol am haaretz." What is this? What does that mean? Now Yosef, he was viceroy over the land. He was the provider to all the people of the land. The Medrash Tanchuma says, in what zechut did Yosef Tzaddik become the leader? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Yosef, you did not listen to Potiphar's wife. By your life, I will make you the king of Egypt, and everyone will listen to your words. You didn't listen to Potiphar's wife doing Avirah, so everyone will end up listening to you. The Midrash, Yalkut Shimoni Mishlei, says, this is Yosef. As it says, Yosef was the ruler. He was the provider to all the people of the land. The explanation is that in the zechut that he ruled over his Yetzer Hara, he became ruler and king. Above and below, whatever he would say will become true. He provided people, and he had the power of bracha. He can give someone a bracha because he withstood the challenge. In the Sefer, Shomrei Emunim, the Sefer Shomrei Emunim says how this applies to us. If someone is confronted with an immodest sight while walking in the street, and he controls himself and doesn't look at that sight, and that pritzut, that not sniut stuff, he should know that any bakasha that he makes of Hashem, at that moment will be granted. That he's able to withstand an immodest sight, it's all connected. That somehow, if you're able to control Yetzer Hara, you now get power of bracha, a power to ask, a power to get, to somewhat control nature, in a sense. This reminded me, when I was learning this reminded me of a study I once learned. There's a study in the 1970s that was done by Stanford University. The name of the study was called the Marshmallow Study. What was the Marshmallow Study? The Marshmallow Study wanted to see, when do children develop the trait to hold off on something to get something better. Basically, instead of wasting my money on one thing, to save up and get something else. When the children can defer gratification by themselves. So this is the way they did it. Nursery school children between ages 4 and 6, they let one child at a time into an empty room, and there was only one thing on the table. Whatever the child wrote that he likes as a treat. And the choices were Oreo cookie, marshmallow, or a pretzel stick. And they put it on a table next to a chair. The children can eat the marshmallow, the researchers told them, but if they can wait 15 minutes, then they would get a second marshmallow or a second cookie, second pretzel stick. So that was the test. They brought the children in, they showed them the table, they said, here's the marshmallow. If you can wait 15 minutes, we'll get you a second marshmallow. So what happens? Some would come inside, cover their eyes, they would cover their hands so they can't see it. Others started kicking the table. Some started pulling on their hair. And others started to pet the marshmallow, all these different things. And some would simply just eat the marshmallow without even waiting. They tested over 600 children. And in the experiment, a minority ate the marshmallow right away. Very few kids ate it right away. Of those who attempted to delay, 1/3 deferred gratification long enough to get the second marshmallow. So 1/3, so about 200 kids, were able to wait 15 minutes to get a second one. The biggest thing that was that the researchers found is that the older the kid got, the more he was able to hold off. But what was most interesting to the researchers is that they followed up with these children later on in life. And they found that of those 600, the 200 were able to defer, were living more happier, better lives than the other 400. That somehow that ability to wait for something else gives a person a better life. It's very similar to what our Midrash is saying. Yosef held off, right? The Gemara in Masechet Sotah says,
held off from a sin.
The Roman woman asked Rav Yossi, how could Yosef HaTzadik, at 17 years old, hold off from a sin? Eshet Potiphar, right? She dressed very seductively. She changed her clothing on him. She spoke to him. She knew what she was doing. She's an older woman. He's 17 years old. You can see 17-year-olds, you know how easy to trick them and stuff like that. And somehow Yosef HaTzadik, how did he do it? So Rav Yossi answers and says, right, that what happened? Yosef HaTzadik was about to sin. Then he looks at the window, and what does he see in the window? He sees the image of his father, which is really him. Think about it for a second. You look at this, you're not going to see someone else. You're going to see yourself. Yosef sees himself, but he looks like Yaakov, right? So he sees Yaakov, right? He's looking for his father, so he sees his father. And now this part, Yaakov now from the image starts to talk to him and tells him, you're supposed to be on the ephod. Oh, your brother's name is going to be there. If you make the sin, you're not going to be. But if you hold off from this sin, You will be on the ephod. And when Yosef heard this, he was able to wait. Push it off, not sin. And he was zocheh to go down in history as one of the greatest tzaddikim of all time. No one else really is called Hatzadik. Yosef Hatzadik. When the Torah says Yosef was refusing, he uses the lashon vayamen, right? And he refused. He refused. Take a look. This is last week's parasha. So 39:8, and it says as follows: Vayma'en, right? And Yosef refused, and he told her, "No, I can't do this." Earlier in the Parsha of Vayeshev, last week's parasha, when the children come home and tell Yaakov that Yosef is dead, what does it say there about Yaakov? It uses the same word. It uses the same word. 37:35. And he says, Vayma'en lehitnahem, that he was not able, he refused to be comforted. Everyone tried to comfort him, and he couldn't. Yaakov couldn't. Why? Netibat Shalom explains. Yaakov knew that Yosef HaTzadik is a person that his son Yosef is able to last through anything. Even if a wild animal tried to get to him. Who's this wild animal? In a sense, it's Eshet Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar. And he knew Yosef can withstand it. That's why Yaakov is in the window. He's watching him. I know you can do it. Again, I don't know how all these things work. And the reason why Yosef was able to withstand it, because he knew that his father believed in him. That's why it uses the same word, Vayma'en. Not only that, when it talks about Yosef Vayma'en, it uses the ta'am, the trop, the cantillation. Is a shlishit, right? It's what's called a chain. It's a very rare ta'ame hamikra. The shalshelet, the chain. Why? Because Yosef was connecting himself back to his father, to his grandfather. He wouldn't let it slip. He knew there was a greater good than a temporary sin with this woman. If we can withstand temptation, the Midrash says Yosef was able to become the ruler. He ruled over his Yetzer. He became a ruler of the world. The Marshmallow study teaches us what? A person defers gratification now. It leads to a greater gratification, not just to get a second marshmallow, but all these people who were able to hold off, later on in life, were living a better and happier and more fulfilling life. A life of satisfaction. There's an amazing story that's told in the times of the Baal Shem Tov. There was a city that had no rain for a very, very long time. And they sent a delegation to the Baal Shem Tov. And they asked the Baal Shem Tov to please daven for their city to have rain, for the people to have food. And the Baal Shem Tov told them, there's only one way that your city is going to get rain. You have to travel very far to a very distant city. And when you get there, you have to find a man by the name Rabbi Yaakov. And when you find Rabbi Yaakov, you have to get a bracha from him that your city should have rain. And then you'll have rain. The delegation said thank you to the Baal Shem Tov. And they set off to that city. They finally get there. It took them a long time. They get there. And they go to the big shul. And they ask the rabbi, we're looking for Rabbi Yaakov. Are you Rabbi Yaakov? He says, no, I'm not Rabbi Yaakov. They say, is there anyone here in the shul, big tzaddik named Rabbi Yaakov? No, they say. Is there any Adam Gadol? Is there maybe Av Bedin, or someone, a Dayan, maybe one of the other shuls? And they tell him, no, and no. There's no Rabbi Yaakov. there is no gadol here by the name of Yaakov. They say, okay, is there maybe he's a tzaddik nister, maybe he's a hidden tzaddik. Is there any good Jew in the town called Yaakov? They say, no, there's no to be Yaakov, there's no Yaakov. He says, it cannot be, there's no Yaakov in town. They say, no, there is one Yaakov. The guy's a drunk. That's the one Yaakov we have in town. So the delegation went. They said, listen, Baal Shem Tov said, Yaakov, this has got to be the Yaakov. They went to his house, and they knock on the door, and the wife says, listen, my husband is a drunk, he can't help you. They said, can we just watch what he does? Maybe he does something once a day that's such a big mitzvah that he's considered a tzaddik. So they watch him, and the whole day, this is what he does. He wakes up. As soon as he wakes up, he takes the bottle, he drinks, falls back asleep, wakes up again, drinks more. But all he's doing is drinking all day. So they don't know what to do. He's not a tzaddik, but Baal Shem Tov said go. They can't even talk to him. He's drinking and sleeping. So they told the wife, is it okay that we take away all his drinks? He'll wake up and we'll ask him for a bracha and then we'll leave. I said, okay, do what you have to do. So as soon as he fell asleep, the Chassidim came and they all put away the bottles of drinks, all the alcohol. He sleeps. Finally, he wakes up in a few hours and he's looking for his bottle. And then he sees his people. He says, what are you doing here? What do you want? And they said, listen, we'll give you back your bottles. Just give us a bracha that our city will see rain again. He says, I'll give you a bracha. You should have lots of rain in your city. Just give me back my wine. They said, okay. They got the bracha and they gave him back his wine. They went back to their city. By the time they got back to their city, the rain started. People had what to eat. People had what to drink. And everything got a lot better. And people were amazed. How did that man have the power?
The man, they had the bitachon in him. They overcome their own.
Let's see.
How this guy could give bracha?
Let's see. So they go back to the Baal Shem Tov. After some time, they go back to the Baal Shem Tov. They said, I can't understand this. How can this man, a drunk, you called him to be Yaakov, and he said he gave us a bracha and the rain started. How did it happen? And the Baal Shem Tov said, let me tell you about this man. You should know, he was one of the biggest sinners of his time. He used to go and meet with not good women, and he would do sins with them. And once he heard that there was a certain zonah, certain prostitute that was very special, and she charged 500 rubles. And he said, I gotta go. And he sold everything he had. He made himself poor and nothing owned. And he worked extra to make 500 rubles. And then he went on his way to go do that sin. Schedule an appointment and everything. He was traveling towards that woman. And he was walking through a certain city. And he heard crying. Children crying. So he came over to hear what was going on. And he saw a boy and a girl and they were crying. And he said, what happened? And they said they took our parents and they threw them into the dungeon. We weren't able to pay the rent. And so the pirates, the landlord, took them and threw them into the dungeon. That's what used to happen. And he went and he found out how much it cost to get them out. And they said 500 rubles. That's how much rent they owed. At that moment, the Baal Shem Tov says, this man said, what am I about to do? I'm about to go make Avirah. I'm about to lose all my money. I already sold everything. I have nothing. I'm going to be a poor man for the rest of my life. It's over. But why am I going to waste my money and have nothing from it? You know what? Let me do this mitzvah. Let me free these captives. And he went and he gave his 500 rubles to them. And he freed the parents. The family was so thankful to him. The Baal Shem Tov says when this happened in Shemayim, a big commotion happened. He did a huge mitzvah with the money he wanted to do Amirah with. And they said in Shemayim, because he saved a Jew that he didn't know, he will now have the power to bless anyone at any time. Just as he brought bracha to the Jewish family, now he'll have power to give bracha to other people. And people started asking him for things, and he started giving. And what happened was he gave bracha to everybody. He even gave bracha to Rishaim, to bad people, and it came true. So in Shemayim they said, what are we going to do with this guy? The power of bracha he has because he overcame his Yetzer Hara and he used the money for good. But he's giving bracha to anyone and anyone. So they said, you know what? We'll make him a drunk. Now he's drunk all the time. So who comes to him for brachot now? He's always drunk. No one can talk to him. But he still has the power of bracha. Because he overcame his Yetzer Hara that one time. And he did a huge mitzvah. That's why when you went there and you got him to give you a bracha, you didn't know who you are. He just saw another Jew and you said, give, even though you're giving back his wine. That was enough to get the bracha. I think this lesson is huge because a lot of times we're looking for ways to get a bracha, to get a blessing, to become a ruler of our fate, so to speak. And the way that is, it's what's the Pirkei Avot says. Pirkei Avot says, if you make your will Hashem's will, then Hashem will make your will His will. This is it. If you're able to overcome your Yetzer Hara, then Hashem will give you what you really want. You become a ruler over blessing, over nourishment, like Yosef HaTzadik. The whole world survived because of him. You do His will, and then Hashem will do your will. So I think this is a very, very big idea. I want to end off. I brought two more lessons, but we'll do one last one because time is running out. So, as the brothers in the whole episode in this week's Parsha, the brothers come in, they're bowing down to Yosef. He questions them, he keeps them as prisoners, lets them back out, he brings them back. It says in chapter 44, Pasuk 4, what does it say? It says, Hem yatzeu et ha'er, lo harchiku, Yosef amar la'asher beto, kum redof achrei anashim, v'hiskatam v'amarta alehem, lama? He made the Menashe go and catch up with them and ask them, Lama shilamtem ra'a tahat tova? Why are you paying back evil for good? Right? They're going to find the cup in Binyamin's sack. And Yosef is saying, I've been so nice to you. I gave you food, drink, and everything, and you had a good time in my place. And now you're stealing it. Why are you paying back evil for the good that I gave you? Zer Shimshon says, why did Yosef say it like this? Yosef could have said, why did you steal my cup? Why is he using this poetry? Why are you doing evil for the good? The Zer Shimshon says as follows. Yosef was implying, you brothers were all jealous of my ketona pasim, my multicolored coats. But why were you jealous of me? Why were you so mean to me? You know that your whole existence was because my mother, Rachel, didn't want your mother, Leah, to be embarrassed. And that's why she was married to Yaakov. And that's why you are here. And you forgot what my mother did for your mother. Why do you repay evil for good? The Midrash uses this a lot of times. The Midrash says, why you sold the son of Rachel, Ben of Rachel, the son of Rachel. Why you keep saying Ben Rachel, Ben Rachel? The Zer Shimshon says because that's the worst thing that they did. They didn't understand. If they had a karat hatov, they would realize that they are only alive because of Rachel, Yosef's mother. And this they didn't understand. This they forgot. And that's what Yosef was telling them. So I think the Zer Shimshon is really a big lesson, because a lot of times we think Hakarat HaTov is just to someone who's nice to me, or just for that 5 minutes, or just for that day, or just for that year, or whatever, just for that guy, but it's not. Hakarat HaTov, apparently, you have to look back. You have to look back generations. Who helped my father? Who helped my grandfather? Who was nice to them? And you have to have a Hakarat HaTov for that. Harav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Zechatzad Gebrocha, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'Dav, was once told that a certain Bachur in the yeshiva, who was in the dormitory, came late every day to yeshiva, always missed Shaharit. And the Mashgiach spoke to him, everyone spoke to him, and he was still coming late. So they decided they're going to kick him out of the dormitory, expel him from the dormitory. They asked Rosh Yeshiva, do you agree? He said yes. He said, you can kick him out, but I need to speak to him before you kick him out. So they called the boy and they brought him to Rosh Yeshiva. Rosh Yeshiva didn't speak to these boys, but he came. And the Rosh Yeshiva told him, listen, you're not coming to Shaharit. The administration spoke to you, the Rebbein spoke to you, you didn't change. You're getting expelled from the dormitory. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you have a place to sleep once you get out of the dormitory? Because he was from out of town. He says, no. So Yaakov said, if that's the case, I want you to sleep in my house. So now the Bachar is even more confused. He says, I don't understand. You're kicking me out of the yeshiva and you're inviting me to the Rosh Yeshiva's house instead? Which one is it? So the Rosh Yeshiva says, listen, when I was learning in the Kollel of Kovna, your grandfather was a supporter of the Kollel. I owe your grandfather Hakarat HaTov. Therefore, even though the school has rules and they're kicking you out of the dormitory, that's they have to do. But my job is to have a Hakarat HaTov. And therefore, you're going to come live with me until we can get you back into the dormitory. Right? A similar story that told Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha. He once went to a wedding and he gave, remember this is Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, this is the late 1970s, early 1980s in the United States. And he gave a hatan a check for $500. It's a lot of money. A lot of money now, a lot of money then, even more then. And the boy, after the hatuna, after the wedding, he came to his father. His father said, must be a mistake. Moshe probably wanted to give you a $50 check. So he went with his kala to Moshe's house to thank him for the gift. And then he told Moshe, I think you made a mistake. You gave me a $500 check. I think you meant 50. And Moshe told him right there, he said, please forgive me. If I could give you 5,000, I would give you 5,000. I would put another zero on it. But I can't afford more than 500, so I gave you 500. He says, but Rebbe, why do you have to give it to me? He says, your grandfather, Rav Pesach Pruskin, was someone who I learned Torah with. And he taught me so much Torah that I owe him so much. I have Hakarat HaTov for that. Therefore, I give you as much as I could. This is already a different idea of how to live life, how to be thankful, not only for the present, but for the past as well. If only us, we can take it to heart and apply it. So just to round off our lessons for this week's Parasha, we started with the lesson that Kadosh Baruch Hu is in charge, and all the cause, all the effect comes from Him. When He wants it, and that's when it's going to happen. And a lot of times Hashem wants good things from us, but we're holding Him back. If we would have bitachon and believe that it comes from Hashem, it would come quicker. Then we had the second lesson about a person who's able to overcome his Yetzer Hara, somehow gets powers of blessing, of providing. And then our third lesson, which was to have Hakarat HaTov now, always, and forever. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless us all, and may we see a real Hanukkah Sameach, and may we have a Shabbat Shalom Lekulam, Rosh Chodesh Tov Lekulam. Toda Rabah.